Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive in. This time, we're taking a look at something a lot of us use every day, the iPhone, specifically the 16 Pro Max. We've got research from all over for this one, tech blogs, even articles in Spanish, and something kind of interesting popped up while we were going through it all.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise, actually. We found that it doesn't actually cost that much for Apple to make these phones.
Really? How much are we talking?
Well, all our sources are saying that the 256 gigabyte iPhone 16 Pro Max costs Apple about $485 to manufacture. But then when you see it retail for almost 1,500 euros,
Whoa, wait a minute. You're telling me there's a profit margin of like 1,000 euros on each phone?
pretty much, yep.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So where exactly is all that money going? Like, what's costing so much to actually make these things?
Well, these phones are packed with a lot of tech. Like any high-tech device, it all comes down to the components. And for the iPhone 16 Pro Max, the most expensive parts are the screen and the rear camera module. Both of those cost Apple about 80 bucks a piece.
80 each. So that's $160 right there. I guess the rest of it must be all the other stuff they pack in there.
Exactly. Plus, we're seeing prices increase in a few key areas this year. Memory, storage, and the new A18 chip.
Right, right. All that new tech.
Yeah, all of that adds up to about a 7% increase in production cost compared to last year's iPhone 15 Pro Max.
And how much did that one cost?
$453 to manufacture.
Interesting. Speaking of the A18 chip, I was reading one of the articles and it pointed out something pretty cool. Apple actually saves a bunch of money because they design their own chips. I've always wondered how that works.
Well, it's because they're using something called vertical integration. Basically, they control the whole process of making the chips, from design to manufacturing.
So they don't have to use another company, right? They cut out the middleman.
Yep, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference. Our sources say that the A18 only costs Apple about $45 to produce. But similar chips for Android phones can cost over $200.
Wow. So that vertical integration strategy is a pretty big deal for Apple then, huh?
For sure, it gives them a big advantage when it comes to both cost and performance. But it also makes you wonder how other companies are going to keep up.
Yeah. This is really interesting. This deep dive is making me think about a lot more than just iPhones.
Exactly. It's a bigger conversation about technology, really.
Now I'm wondering about the actual building process. How long does it take to make one of these phones? I know they're making a ton of them, but they seem so complex.
Hmm, that is a good question. And unfortunately, our sources don't have any hard data on exactly how long it takes. But I mean, we do know Apple's factories are extremely high tech, right?
Yeah.
Robots doing pretty much everything, all these super precise movements.
Yeah, like these super advanced factories churning out iPhones nonstop.
Pretty much. So I'd say based on all that, each phone probably takes at least a couple of hours to make from start to finish.
A few hours, huh? That's pretty amazing considering how complicated they are.
It really shows how efficient Apple is with their manufacturing, that's for sure.
Definitely. It makes you wonder about the people actually working in those factories, the ones who are designing and building and fixing all those amazing robots.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, even with all this incredible technology, it's still people making it all happen. Human ingenuity is what makes it all work.
I love that. It adds another layer to this whole thing. And speaking of layers, I was thinking about something else our sources talked about. How affordable, or maybe not affordable, it is to own the newest iPhone.
Yeah, the eternal question. Luxury or necessity?
Right. One source actually did the math based on the average salary in Spain and saving 10% of your income. It would take 5.5 months to save up for the iPhone 16.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is. It makes you think about, how much pressure there is to keep up with all the new tech, even if it means stretching your budget thin.
It's interesting, right? Like, is it really that important to always have the newest phone?
Yeah.
Especially when you know technology changes so fast.
Totally. What's hot today is old news tomorrow.
It really makes you think, how do we balance technological progress with being responsible? That's something that goes way beyond just iPhones.
You're so right. Think about all the waste that comes from people constantly upgrading their phones.
Exactly. It's a huge environmental problem.
Yeah.
We need to consider the long-term effects of all these upgrades we're making.
So where do we even go from here? How do we make good choices as consumers when there's so much going on?
I think it starts with being aware, understanding how it all works, from the tech itself to the business side of things. That's how we can start to make better decisions.
Better decisions about what we buy, when we upgrade, and even the environmental impact of those choices.
Absolutely. It's about thinking beyond just the product, seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah. Like a deep dive, just like we're doing right now.
Huh, exactly. It's not just about the phone itself. It's about everything around it.
I love that. I feel like we're just getting started with this conversation, though. There's so much more to unpack here.
I agree, and I think we've got a lot more to talk about.
Definitely. We've got this crazy low production cost and this super high price tag. And somewhere in the middle, there's the average person just trying to figure out if they can even afford one of these phones. It's all connected.
You're right. And I think we're going to start to see all these different factors come together as we keep going with this deep dive.
I'm excited to see where this goes. All right, so we know these iPhones don't cost that much to actually make, but then they're selling them for a super high price. It feels like there's got to be something else going on here.
Right, like we were saying, that profit margin is almost 1,000 euros. It kind of makes you think maybe we're paying for more than just the phone itself, you know?
Yeah, like are we paying for the Apple logo? Or all the software? Or just like the whole Apple experience?
That's it, exactly. Apple has this image, right? High quality, good design, easy to use. And then there's all the apps and accessories
Mhm.
and everything. It all works together so seamlessly, and people are willing to pay more for that.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I like that my phone and my computer just work together without me having to do anything. But it makes you think, like, how much of that 1,500 euros is for the actual phone, and how much is it just because it's Apple?
That's the question, isn't it? It's different for everyone, I guess.
I keep thinking about that article that said it would take someone in Spain, like, 5.5 months to save up for an iPhone 16. That's a lot, you know?
It is. And it just shows you how hard it can be to keep up with all the new tech,
Uh,
especially if you're on a budget.
It's like a status symbol, right? Having the newest phone. But is it really worth it? I mean, there's always going to be something newer coming out soon anyway.
Right. Technology changes so fast, it
Hmm.
makes you think about what's important, you know? Should we always buy the newest thing, or is it better to be more mindful?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do we balance keeping up with the new tech and also, not creating a ton of waste? All those old phones got to go somewhere.
It's a big issue, and it's something we need to think about more, not just with phones, but with all kinds of technology. It's all connected.
Okay, so how do we even start to change things? It seems so complicated.
I think the first step is just understanding what's going on.
Hmm.
Learning about the technology, figuring out how the companies work, how they make money. Once we understand that, then we can start to make better choices.
Like better choices about what we buy, or maybe waiting longer to upgrade our phones and thinking about what happens to all those old devices.
Exactly. It's about looking at the bigger picture, not just the product itself. And it's about asking questions.
Like we're doing with this deep dive, right?
Exactly. Sometimes the most interesting things are the ones that we don't think about that much.
I like that. I feel like this conversation is just getting started, though. There's so much more we could talk about.
Yeah. And I think all these different ideas like production costs and profit margins and what it means for consumers, it's all connected and it's going to keep coming up as we keep digging into this.
It's amazing, right? We started out talking about iPhones, but now we're talking about like the whole world.
I know. That's what I love about these deep dives. We can take something, anything, and use it to explore so many other ideas.
Like we've talked about what goes into these phones, how much
Right.
it costs, how the companies make money, even what happens to them when we're done with them.
It's a lot, but I hope it gives everyone listening something to think about. Maybe next time you're thinking about your phone, you'll remember some of this stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I'm definitely going to be more careful about upgrading my phone now. I'm curious what other people think about all this?
Maybe it'll inspire them to do some research too. Or check out other phone companies. There are so many choices out there. You can even buy a used phone. Did you know that?
I did know that. But yeah, you're right. It's about finding what works for you, what fits your budget and everything.
Exactly. It's not just about the phone. It's about how it fits into your life.
I love that. Well, I think we're about out of time for this deep dive.
We are. But what a journey, right? We went from the tiny little parts inside the phone all the way to, well, the whole planet.
Huh, that's true. And I think we learned a lot along the way.
I hope so. And for everyone listening, thanks for coming along with us on this journey. It was a lot of fun.
It was. And remember, the world is full of things to learn about. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and you never know what you'll discover.